Alright, I'm back streaming live. It is Monday, January 28th, 2019. It's just past 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And today I'm continuing on with what I was working on yesterday, the PSMekBuilder project. This is a opinionated implementation of a module build framework for PowerShell. Basically, a framework to build PowerShell modules the way that I think they should be built. Not really intended for mass consumption, more for my own use, my own projects. But I figured that while I'm doing this, I should stream about it, offer my thoughts, opinions, and experience with module pipelines and issues therein, and some of it could be reused. I'm definitely not trying to create the best module builder on the planet or anything, just I need to redo a bunch of my older projects, and working with them is painful, so I want to have a pipeline framework that I can just kind of plug and play all of my old modules into and no longer have to worry about the old stuff. So where I left off yesterday in this was that I was working on the dependency injection and the ability to actually get the public functions and update the functions to export and alias to export from the module. So I was working in this, which spawned off a whole bunch of other tasks. So the need was to be able to run this update metadata from the configuration module. I needed to have dependency injection so that I could actually install the configuration module and consume it in the pipeline. So one of my design philosophies is that I don't assume that any of the required modules to do anything are actually in the environment. So dependency injection takes care of ensuring that they're there for me um, by installing them or copying them or just making sure that they're already there. So that's where I left off. So the next step in the build process will be to bump the version. So currently let's see, build module task, which is just kind of a meta task, has these steps to it. Initialize, which is basically setting up some build variables that we'll use. Create paths, which creates any folders that the project needs to in order to write whatever. Install dependencies, obviously installs any dependencies that are going to be needed for the build process. Copy base files is copies the module PSM1 and PSD1 from the source into the destination. Copy module source files does the taking public and private and classes and enums and taking their contents and putting them into the PSM1 file. So that's basically building the PSM1 file. Copy module assets copies everything from the assets folder to the assets folder, so that way like anything that your module needs that isn't PowerShell code can be included in the module underneath the assets folder. And then update export functions and aliases, which is where we left off yesterday. So the next step in this is to update the version. So in the module source, you have a PSD1 file, and in it, it has a module version, but you never touch this in the source file. Or if you do, it doesn't matter because it's going to get overwritten. And the idea is that you don't care about what version's inside the source. What you care about is when you build it, that it has the proper version in it. So I never touch this. I never recommit the module version back to the repository. Um, my opinion on how this should work is to use Git version. And Joel Bennett, J. Cool, recommended this to me when I was looking at versioning. And I think that it's a pretty neat tool. It makes a lot of this kind of painless if you use a very specific branching strategy anyways. Um, so my opinionated build pipeline requires that you use Git common flow, um, which is very similar to GitHub flow. The difference being that master can be in an incomplete state, but tags on master determine actual releases. So what I've done is I've done a little pre-work here. There's a Git version YAML that I've kind of worked out of the suggestions that Joel originally made and modified so that they would work properly with Git version 4. So Git version is a command line tool. You can install it with Chocolatey. It's called Git version like this. And it requires that you have this YAML file in the base of your repository. That's kind of a pain point for me. I would rather it be inside a config folder. I like to keep my top level repository pretty clean, which is why I use a folder structure. And the fact that it requires a Git version YAML to be in the top level kind of is a pain point for me, but no big deal. So you run Git version and it parses this YAML file for some settings and it outputs some JSON. Now the cool thing about this is that there is a build task in Azure DevOps called Git version as well. And it's basically calling Git version in the background. It calls it against your YAML file and it will even update the actual version of the build so that when you're looking in the build you can see the version and it'll match up between the version of the module that's been published, either development feed or actual repository, and you can see where that version was built so long as the build is still in the build history. So it's pretty cool tool. It basically creates a bunch of different version strings to compile your version however you want to, and it has other things too, like it can update manifests for .NET DLLs and stuff like that, but I don't think PowerShell is currently supported. Be nice if it was added. I might take a look at the Git version project and see if we can add PowerShell manifest in there, but there's kind of a problem. PowerShell versions are very picky about the text that's in them, and you can't just do whatever you want. They follow Semver 1-ish, kind of. You're limited in what you can do in preview tags, so you kind of have to manipulate the output from this. Kind of sad. My hope is that someday we can get Semver to support in PowerShell get and the PowerShell gallery. That'd be great. But for now, we've got to kind of just work around the limitations that we're dealt. And I think some of these are actual limitations that are imposed by the NuGet v2 APIs. So you're kind of limited by what NuGet v2 can do, since that's kind of the backend that's being used by PowerShell Gallery and whatnot. So we've got to do some work on what's available here, and since we're going to be running Git version in two different kind of scenarios, we have to account for that too. So we're going to create a new task in the project called version bump. So version bump is going to be comprised of two things, and that's going to be git version detection and actual manifest update, version update. So we're going to create this as a meta task. In my other pipelines that use this kind of methodology, I have this all as one, but I think that there's some value in separating these tasks out. So the task that this will call is git version update git version detect git version. I'm trying to think of a good verb. Let's use this. I like to use the PowerShell verbs for my task, even though I don't really use a dash notation for them. Find, clear add, format get version. That works. It's kind of cool sounding. And then the other task is to update manifest version. So version bump will call these two tasks, so we need to create them. So task, we need initialize to run, and then in here we're going to check a few things. So I like to allow for explicitly defining the version in the build process should I not want to use git version detection. And I do that by taking in a build version parameter. So in my build PS1, I need to update that as well. And there is a NuGet version v2 thing. So the build environment in Azure DevOps creates this as I think it's git version dots. Yeah, it's git version underscore. Just copying this from some notes that I took. So the Azure DevOps git version task sets a bunch of build variables that are start with git version dot, and the PowerShell tasks translate the dot into an underscore. So this is git version, and it's v2. So it looks like this right here. So 010 beta 4. So I haven't synced tags yet, I don't think. So if I do get, what is it to do tags? Get tag. Well, I've never been very good at the git taggings. Git tag, yeah, I should list them. So I'm just doing some Googling here. I figured I'd let everyone in on the secrets. Fetch P. I just want sync tags from remote. Get fetch tags. All right. Get fetch tags. There we go. So I wonder if I update this now, will it show something different? No, it still shows the same version. Okay. But the way this works is it uses tags to kind of do some of the detection of your version and your branch. So like where your branch is based off of a tag, it will do that. So since my first version is 0.0.1, the next version that it's seeing, which it does by default in my configuration, the next version is a minor version bump. So the next version of this would be 010. And since we are in the master branch will update with beta as this. And I'll show later after I've got this kind of fleshed out how it will look when you're on a different branch. It'll change what's in here. So the idea is that every commit off of master gets a beta tag, because it is kind of a beta version of your next release. And then finally, when I would tag this 010, it would actually release version 010. So, anyways, but this is what would be set in the environment like this in the CI. So I'd be able to access that, and in the get one more thing, initialize. I need to first. I'm going to output build version here. That way I can see if it was supplied in the beginning. All right, so we update the initialize task, and we go back to the get version. So if not, build version. So this has a dual role. Since we're getting it from the environment, we would be, if we run the get version task in Azure DevOps, build version will be set. And if we have not, or we're running this locally, then build version won't be set. So the next thing for us to do is to locate get version and run it. So this does require that get version be installed. I could create a notification in here in my dependencies that we need Choco so name equal get version version, and I think it's 4.0.0, but let's see, Choco find or search. I can never remember. Choco search, Git version. Yeah, 4.0.0. So I need portable, actually. And while I don't have any code in here to actually add this or install it, it'll at least signal to users that it is required. I could add another install dependency in here, but this kind of gets messy, right? Like now I need to say you require Choco. Make sure Choco is available and then do that too. So it's like never-ending list of dependencies for that. So I'm just gonna leave this as is, as signaling that you need to have this Choco package installed, and hopefully users, which is myself in this case, will know that we need to have that. So we need to detect the Git version binary from the environment. So I'm going to do git command dash name Git version. Is a command type should be application, and I'm just gonna select the first one just in case there is multiple in the environment. Select object first one. So we do that, and it gives us the application. Is version on that? Because that's really awesome if I can do that. No. That'd be cool. Can I do where version? So where object. I don't know that this is gonna work, but we'll give it a shot. Equal. Or 0.0.0. Helps if I've got like zeros instead of actual O's. That'd be nice. And then that's not what I want. Why has it got? There we go. So if I run this, I should get nothing. Awesome. Does this work? Nope. Oh, I need a dot O. All right, there we go. Yeah, so the reason why I'm not using PSDepend is that I found it painful to use in Azure DevOps, which is going to be my primary platform. So we originally were using PSDepend internally, and I ended up having to reinvent the wheel on it just because I had several pain points. That and my dependency framework that I've kind of been toying with uh, uh, is a little it's opinionated. So it follows certain things, and the reason for that is that I want to be able to hook in this dependency thing into a dependency watcher. So, for example, I can have a dependency watcher go out to all of my repositories and look in this JSON file and see that, hey, you're on configuration version 131, but we've released configuration version 140 or whatever, and automatically submit pull requests to update that kind of thing. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Not that PSDepend is a bad module or anything. I just had troubles with it and then had some other things I wanted to do with my dependency injection and management. All right, so this will give me the one here, the command to run. So then I should be able to do result equal. Let's see. I think I just want to call this command and then call this get version equal command pipe that to convert from JSON. Error action blow up. Yeah, I looked at possibly contributing back to PSDepend for some of the stuff, but ultimately, like, JSON won out, and I need to, I don't know, maybe PSDepend does support JSON, but the thing is that it's way more than PowerShell, so it's like NPM modules, binaries, it's like everything. I know PSDepend works for all that, but we need it to work in more languages than PowerShell. So it needs to be kind of standardized across multiple languages. So the more important piece for us is the JSON file than it is the actual technology that's doing it. And I think this works. And no. Is this, oh, that's because I haven't run this. And then there we go. So this should be a nice JSON object, and then we need to set script build version equal get version dot, and then this NuGet version 2. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Gail, this is a this is risky streaming this because the entire point of this is like to build yet another build pipeline after we had all those discussions about module builder, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but this is like only for my use, right? Like, I'm not trying to get anyone to use this. It's just how I want to build modules, and I'm not even trying to attempt to make this something the community will consume, but I figured I would share while I'm streaming on it. So now the build version should be set to this, so I should have the same whether it was done by the CI or whether it's being done by me manually. So that's set. So I believe there are some conversions that we have to do on this. For sure, we need to see if this is a preview module. One other thing I need to make sure that I do before I do this is to do push location project root. This will fail if I'm anywhere outside of the project root. So X. Alright. So that will take care of that for me. We just want to make sure that we actually I don't need pop location project root, just pop location. Making sure that we are in the project root before we run the get version command, otherwise we get all kinds of weird output, and then pop location to go back to wherever we were. Ideally we're in the project root, but somebody could be building this from their source folder or something like that. We want to make sure that we're in the right spot. So what I need to do next is add some logging here. Let's see. Build version not present. Locating get version binary. Executing, yeah, executing. Executing get version. And then down here to else. Build version. Oh, we've got some logging about which logic track was entered. We're save us some troubleshooting in the future. So after this, we need to do some split operations on this. So new version, and then preview version equals build version split on dash. So again, we can't just put the flat version in here, because if you look at the build version as it exists now, like if we run this, the build version will be in this format, and we can't just supply that, so we need to do some work on it. So the first thing we do is get this, and that way we get the version piece in this, and then we also do this. There's some other things we could do with like multiples, but since I want to be able to allow the user to, or myself, to execute invoke build and pass in the exact version to build if I want to, I've got to do some kind of gymnastics here to kind of process this that would otherwise not be necessary. But we need to massage the preview version because it's possible that there could be multiple dashes in there, and PowerShell get will throw up on us if we try to do that. So we need to do preview version, just join all of these preview versions together. So when I do this, it doesn't look so bad here because we've got the preview version as beta 04 and this version here. But if we had something with a dash in it, then it would have split out to multiple things, and we just join it back together. So that's what we're doing there. So next in the logic on this is to pull in the current manifest. So we're going to do manifest equal import dash PowerShell data file. Path is going to be, if I look at initialize output manifest file. So that'll give us the value of that. I'm just gonna set this right quick so I can kind of step through this. Oh. Yeah, just grab this out of here. So if I run this, I should get a nice hash table that has everything in it, and included in there is the version. So we want to do previous version equal manifest dot version, module version rather, because I want to display at the end what it was when I update that. So next I want to check if private data was found. Manifest dot private data. Private data was not found, and we want to add it in as a manifest private data. Add that as a empty hash, and that'll ensure that if for whatever reason, if I've not completed anything in the private data section, that it'll be created. And the reason for that is that if we're going to update the preview, we need to update it in there, which is where we can go with this. updating with version 1. Fight like Krogan. That's not Commander Shepard. This song's pretty awesome. So we're gonna update this file with new version. Then update module manifest, which is terrifying. I'm going to use update module manifest here. But I actually don't want to do that. I want to use what is the configuration one for that? Let me look at my other update metadata. Yeah, property name. Name module version. Dash value with the new version. Then if preview version. So if there was anything that preview version part that we defined up above, which right now it would be triggered, we want to update this as a preview module. That way we don't have to do any kind of like, oh, you're doing a preview, whatever. We just figure it out from the version that's being supplied. So we need to update actually didn't even need to do this piece up here. Maybe I do. Wonder how update metadata works if the property is missing. Does it? Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. That's fine. I haven't played with update metadata enough to know how well it works with different things, but I've got a plan. So if preview version updating with preview pre-release, is that what they call it in the thing? I think it's pre-release. Yeah. Yeah, pre-release. Does that look right? That's how it's spelled, right? Or is it pre-release? That's weird. That looks right. Dash F module file, module manifest file, and preview version. And then we would do manifest dot private data pre-release equal preview version, then update path. Property name private data with value manifest.private data. And then else, so if this is not a preview release, we want to remove a preview tag. So for whatever reason, if somebody's trying to be safe and in the source manifest they are specifying a pre-release, we want to remove it if this is definitely not a pre-release. So remove pre-release. Trying to decide what is the best way to go about this. I think in the past I've done search and replace. I could probably just do this since I'm ensuring that the private data has a pre-release. Actually, I don't. All right. Remove pre-release. I think this throws. It doesn't. Okay, so I can just run that, and that should be good. Just making sure I can run that over and over again, it doesn't fail. I was pretty sure that if you tried to remove a key that didn't exist, it threw, but could be wrong. Usually I'm wrong anyways. Alright, so now what I need to do is to update metadata, path, property, private data. It's basically the same thing, but we removed it. I think that's all that's left here besides outputting some data on what we did. Yeah, I want to pull in the updated manifest so I get some new manifest. All right, that way we can output some data down here. And first thing I want to do is get the old manifest version. And this is going to be, did I call it previous version? Previous version. And then I want to output the build version. version, and then the new version. And then the new manifest version. And this is just to ensure that it was set properly. New manifest version, it's module version. And then new manifest pre-release. Manifest, it's module version, private data dot pre-release. Only spelled, jeez. Let's try that again. Pre-release. Why is that okay there, but not up here? What am I spelling wrong there? Nothing. It just happens to not catch it here. That's weird. That's right. Alright, whatever. Some places it's catching the spelling on it, other places not, and oh well. Alright, so I should be able to run this, but since I did use this one, I need to make sure that I run install dependencies, because I am using a dependency on this. And actually, this part was supposed to be separated out, so this goes into the other task. I said that I would separate these out, so I did get version, so this is update manifest version. So I wanted to separate out that logic a little bit. I'm debating if it's really worth separating out, and I think that I don't care to actually separate these out, so we're gonna get rid of this one and get version. We're gonna actually pull this all into. I thought that it would make sense to do this all in separate ones, but I think that it's probably just better to keep it together. There. Try to keep these tasks as small as possible, but this really isn't doing much. There's just a lot of logging involved and some logic, but it's really not a whole lot of steps combined. So I should be able to do this now in the so just make sure I've got that saved. Build, update you. Initialize task is saved. All those are saved. Good. So we can go here. Some more screen real estate. Clear. I'm going to go ahead and restart current session for good measure. I think I should just add version bump to the end of build module. I'll do that first. Build module, version bump. All right. So now I don't need to do this line at all. So we'll run this and get a nice clean build of the module and see if it does our module version for us, to make sure that the all right, so luckily for us, the last task is the one that we just did. So version bump, build version not present, locating, get binary, executing, get binary, updating this file with version 010 with pre-release beta 4. That stuff looks good. The files looks like it has the right stuff. So if I look at this file in the bin folder, we have module version 010, and if we compare it to this one, this is 001, and just while we're still in the old one, there's no pre-release set, but in PSD1 we should have pre-release. Awesome. So that seems to be working as intended. So we've got version bumping done. We'll go ahead and commit these changes in. Version bump, dependencies JSON. All right, so these are all just test files. They're not things that I need to actually commit. They're just temporary things I have there to put some kind of data in the module while I'm testing this out, because most important thing of this project right now is the build framework. So we're going to call this add version bump code. I guess before I commit, I want to do some tests. So if I set a version of 3.0.0 dash blah. We'll just make sure that it works with the provided data. Looks like it did. And if I do a full version of that, see if that works. That looks like it did. And then new manifest pre-release is empty. That's good. So that's what we expect. Let me just make sure that that looks normal in the PSD1 file. Yep, looks good. And we didn't get any errors for that, so that's decent. So the next thing I need to do is also do env. Copy this out of the build PS1. I'm going to set this to a couple of values and try. Equal 5.3.2 dash la la la, and then run our code without supplying a build version. It should pick that up from the environment. It'll say that it was supplied. Yep, build version 3.2 blah 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 was done, and just to make sure that this supports this properly, we'll run this with a release version. And that seems to be detecting properly. So everything seems to be working like we expect it to, properly bumping the version on this. So we'll go ahead and commit this and push it up. And then I want to show some differences to what this looks like when you are using different things. So right now we're on master. I'm going to create a new branch called feature demo version bumping. So if I'm on a feature branch and I do, first I need to get rid of that environment variable. Get rid of that. I'm going to just restart the current session for good measure. Just make sure that we're working with a clean slate. If I run this, it's going to give a different kind of version. Yeah, so the version we get instead of beta, since we're on a feature branch, is we get demo version bump, and it's truncated a little bit, so we're good there. So it basically assigns a version on this that's based off of the commit on there, and so we saw that one. I'm going to do a fake commit on this. So get commit allow dash empty dash m testy. So this was our version here. I'm just going to copy this up here for good measure so we can see this. So I've done another commit on this, and if I do invoke build on this now, I'll get a new version. So it automatically does to 6. And the reason for that is that I like to have every single build on the feature branches in CI publish, and that way, if I'm doing it that way, they have to have unique versions. This is kind of just a good way to ensure that those versions are unique. So far, I've been using this exact YAML file for get version internally. I actually developed it externally and then borrowed it internally. So, basically, just using this, it works on a couple branches. There's a master that it cares about, feature or features, and release or releases. So these are folders basically. So if it's in the feature folder, features folder, or release folder, releases folder, these version differently. And that way, like, I can do that, but that does require some diligence about the branching strategy, which is why this is, opinionated. You have to work in this project in a certain way for everything to work the way you want it to. But the idea is that if you do it in that specific way, you never have to worry about your versioning. You can publish every single CI build to a dev feed. When you tag a release, so if I were to tag, let me check out master. If I were to create a tag here, can never remember the syntax. I think it's just like get tag and then some stuff. Yeah, name, message, tag, name, message. So get tag 0.0.2 and message of test version bump. It doesn't have to be that. So I do get tag. I see this, and if I do another build on this, since I'm currently on the tag, it built it as version 0.2, 0.2. So we'll have to go in and delete this tag, but I don't really want to have this tag. It's not, I guess I could leave it. There's no harm. It's not going to do anything. But if I do another commit, so if I do get commit allow empty -m test again. So I've got a new commit on that, and if I build again, I'm going to get a beta build because I'm no longer on the tag. Yeah, so I get beta 6. And I can then get reset hard. I'll do soft just in case. 0.0.2. Get status. Yeah. And yeah, so get log. Yeah. So I'm at the right one. We're all good. So that's getting version bumping done. Bump, bump, bump. Yeah, so that's kind of how I manage Thanks, Dill, for the good laugh. Yes, I would like to avoid some R. Kelly incidents for sure. So that's how I'm implementing the bump. I think that I've done something fairly similar in my projects at work. Like I said, I can't reference them directly. So I took some notes before the stream on what I think should be in here, and what I'll probably do is go in tomorrow and look at them and see how similar they are, but I think they're very similar. I definitely wasn't using updates. I definitely wasn't using the configuration ones. I was using update manifest, I'm pretty sure, because that. But as I've found out, the whole like built-in commands for manipulating the manifest are kind of dangerous and do weird things that you don't want them to, so I'm trying to avoid them. Joel's configuration module is pretty spiffy for that, and I know that like some of the same functionality is built into build helpers, I think, from Warren. So So basically what I have here now is that I've got all the things for basically building the module out. The uh, the module gets built if we look in bin. Uh, this is what gets done. So like I said, I have some dummy classes and some dummy modules in there, and some dummy assets. So the assets get copied over. The PSD one gets filled out with the proper module version, um, which this one should show beta 6, yep, for a preview of that. PSM1 gets compiled from all of the enums, classes, private functions, and public functions. So that's being all done. So this entire folder right here, the next stage would be to package that. Um, I'm not going to do that tonight, but I'll go ahead and talk about the next steps. The thing that I would need to do is publish the module to a local folder, which means that I need to register a temporary repository to do this, which also means that any modules that this depends on, I have to also first add into that folder. Oh, God, I hate that. So what I really want is to be able to package the modules into a nupkeg file without going through the hassle of, well, thanks for the follow, I appreciate it. Without going through the hassle of doing this whole like thing. So if you're using PowerShell get and you want to just get a nupkeg file out of it, so the NuGet package, right? You have to basically create a folder, create a PS repository, local PS repository to that folder, and publish to that folder. But before you can publish, you have to make sure that all of your dependencies and all your dependencies are inside that folder. So you'd have to download all their nupkegs, or you have to install all the modules and publish all the modules to that. And that doesn't always work for various reasons. So you might be wondering, well, why don't you just publish directly to a feed? Well, so my opinion on this is that when you build the module, it should produce a single artifact, and that artifact should then be able to be uploaded to multiple places. So I need to package the nupkeg first, and then determine which gallery or feeds or whatever I'm going to publish this module to. And that way I can always go back and look at what was done, and that should be the file that's in that repository. I should be able to compare the hash signatures of them. I should be able to take that nupkeg and install the module, and that should be exactly what I should see on the gallery and all that kind of stuff. And because of that kind of single build principle, multiple publish principle, I have to build the nupkeg itself. So I saw there were some recommendations from Joel about there is something out there, either he worked on or somebody else did, that will do the packaging for you without doing any publishing, so that you don't need to have all of the stuff around. So what I'm going to do between now and the next time I stream on this is research possible solutions that don't involve this PowerShell get publish module craziness, because I've done that implementation at work and it's super painful. I hate it, and I'd really like to go to something much similar. I have the module, I just need to create an nupkeg. And if that means that I do something manually by creating the new spec file and then doing NuGet pack on my own, then so be it. But I think that there's something out there that'll do this for me. I think that's also possible to manipulate the internals of PowerShell get to package the module without using publish module. So I'm gonna research that, and that'll be the next thing, and that should be fun. However we end up implementing it. But for now, I'm gonna say that that's that's all for now. I'm going to sign off, and I thank you for watching. Thank all the live watchers and anybody who's watching the video on demands or YouTube or wherever you're watching this from. And I hope to see you back.